Hello, good morning, good evening, uh, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. So this is a live stream. It's a sort of a reaction video as well about or of the Master's Voice Prophecy blog and her newest, well, how should I call it? Her newest revelation. But really, it's not her newest revelation. It's been a revelation to Esther, of course, about the that there's men out there who actually dress up as women. Sheltered little Esther, by her own admission, she grew up very sheltered, has started to realize that not all pastors in the church building are actually children of God, and nor are all women who say they're women actually women, but are men. So what we're witnessing really on her channel is Esther going through the stages of discovering reality, the real world out there, things that are happening to people, including satanic rituals, human trafficking, and so on. That is quite the norm in this world here. Of course, it is the norm for a lot of people. Let's just put it that way, for a lot of people. But Esther, of course, wasn't aware of any of that. Neither was she aware of wolves in the pulpits. And so she's making series after series, telling people that this is a prophecy. Just obviously always going back to the Bible and linking America and the judgment of America to Israel and judgment of Israel, but which was, a real judgment, of course, and it already happened as well. But I talk about this on my other live streams. So she's basically a deceiver but the thing is, she's trying to, hold on, I might have to close my window in a minute. She's trying to, so she's trying to make sense of something that she's learning. And as she goes along, she is telling us about it, as if it's the truth. So the latest one is the Transvestigation, it's called, and that's been going on for years, by the way. Hold on, I need to close the window. Okay, so the Transvestigation of certain people, usually famous people, actors, actresses rather, or politicians. It's usually about people who are said to be born male, but have turned themselves into female. And it's a thing, it's obviously it happens. And it will also happen with actors and actresses, and just as it happens in normal life, meaning you and me, normal people like you and me, they want to pass as a woman because they feel like a woman. And I'm not condoning this, by the way. I'm just telling people how it is. And they don't tell others because they're so desperate to pass as a woman for whatever reason. They're trying to deceive themselves and they're trying to deceive others. And also we get people who do that when they are famous, they do the same thing. Whether there's a satanic whether this is part of a satanic ritual is, of course, a whole different matter. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it is. I have looked into this myself years and years and years ago. So I do have, some opinions on that matter as well. But I just want to stick with Esther's new revelation that the world out there is actually quite a bad place, can be quite a bad place. And her newfound revelation is that women are really men and, trying to deceive the world. So I want to look at this video of hers called Prosperity by Craft. The beautiful man in stealth mode. Um, Let me share the screen as usual, and we check it out together. And I'll be flicking through the video and talking about it. And, people are welcome to post their opinion, comment section, chat, whatever.
Of the Lord, three parts. They are The Beautiful Men of America, The History of a Lie. The second one is called The Transvestigation of America, The Beautiful Men of America. And the third one is called The Beautiful Men of America, The Lost Decades, Part 1. So even The Lost Decades, it's called that because it's looking at how much information has been lost concerning the fact that, yes, America and many other nations of a Western persuasion, many other Western nations have a very well and carefully concealed history of the males in that society dressing up as females. So this is actually a very old and very ancient practice, and I'm going to briefly.
So, by Esther's own admission, this is a very old and ancient practice. Whether that's actually so, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a historian. Maybe it's actually a movement and it's been going on for a long, long time. But of course, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So we can expect this to have happened for many, many hundreds of years, as long as human beings probably exist. There's always been corrupted behavior. So by Esther's own admission, though, this has been going on for a long time, but only now has God started to reveal this to all of humanity through Esther. Well, that's what she wants us to believe, of course, but that's not so, because she's a double talker by her own admission. That has been going on for a long, long time. And of course, Esther always watches videos, especially on TikTok, as she mentions in this video again. She's been watching videos on TikTok where people talk about that sort of stuff. She says, people who are not saved are able to see these things much clearer than people who are saved. So Esther knows who's saved and who isn't, according to Esther. You can find that in this video as well. So she's assuming a lot of things. And of course, she's also assuming that these things have happened for a long, long time. And yeah, of course, they have happened, because these things, there's nothing new under the sun. But where is her fact check? Where is what's she referring to when she says these things? She just always obviously has been doing her research. Google is her prophet, or is her master. And she goes to Google and she checks everything out on Google, and then she researches it, and then she gives us a little Reader's Digest, basically, version of what she has researched. But this transvestigation, of course, is all about assumption. It's all about watching videos, especially watching a lot of videos, because I've done that years and years and years ago, even before, 10 years ago, maybe. It was a long, long time ago anyway. And so you watch videos, you look at the evidence. For example, Beyonce, when she was pregnant, and or apparently she allegedly was pregnant, and she sat down and her tummy folded, which was very unusual for a pregnant person. Yeah, these are very strange things. And these people, they do very strange and evil, even sometimes evil things. What that has to do with us, I still don't know, because Esther believes that us being lied to by these people somehow makes us guilty. Okay. And she talks about that later on as well. So, like I said before, I'm not condoning this behavior of deceiving people into thinking that that you're a certain sex when you're not. But that has absolutely nothing. That doesn't make us a guilty party in anything, and it certainly doesn't bring judgment of God onto us, because there's people out there who are lying about their sex, their gender. But somehow Esther wants to turn even that into a an act that America will be judged by. Yeah, not just America, of course, but she's just, because it's happening all over the world, but it's just America, of course, that's going to get a judgment for that. So let's continue.
We touch on in this prophecy, because it's good to do a recap when I'm in the midst of a prophecy arc. If you are brand new, a prophecy arc is when God has given me something, and as I'm handling it, the thing just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And pretty soon, it might end up being 5 parts, 6 parts, until the message has been properly handled. Even
until the message has been properly handled. I mean, this woman is so full of herself. You know, it's like she's realizing things about the world out there, and because she's so full of herself, she thinks that these are messages from God and she has to share them with the whole world. Darling, the whole world already knows about it, or a lot of people already know about it. It's out there. You know, people talk about it constantly. Alternative news, alternative media, for years. You know, there's people much, much bigger than you who are have millions of followers. They talk about things like that. So, you know, you're not a prophet speaking the words of God to the people who are listening to your channel and saying, oh, look, this is a new revelation and I need to tell you about it. Otherwise, it will not come to pass. Will come to pass what? You know, what sort of a prophecy is that supposed to be? It's sorcery. That's what it is. And this one here, this transvestigation, is just downright conspiracy theory. Yeah, because it does absolutely, even if it was true, which I'm not saying it is or isn't, but even if it was true, what has that got to do with us? When you deceive other people, that person who deceives other people is going to be judged by God. Yeah, this has nothing to do with you and me. When they go in the and pretend to be pinup girls and they're really men, and this is what Esther says, and these men are lusting after these pinup girls who are really men, then whose fault is it for lusting? Whether that's a man or a woman, okay? And whose fault is it for deceiving the other into thinking that they are something which they're not? So there's two parties here at play. You shouldn't be lusting and you shouldn't be deceiving people, but each one of us is going to be standing in front of God. But you see, the thing that is when I'm listening to this video, what really comes out strong again is her wish to destroy trusting relationships, because or relationships that give you joy. And she's trying to put the spanner and throw the spanner in the works, because she wants people to doubt that what they have is actually true. And I'm not just talking about, you know, watching the TV and thinking, oh, this is a true man or true woman. No, even just a normal person, you know, in real life, not on the TV. Could there really be female? Maybe they're male, maybe they're deceiving me. It's constant. This is constant. This is the mind of Esther. Actually, a little bit later on in the video, you will see her equating someone offering her food to the devil trying to get her to, you know, to come into the flesh, basically, you know, to walk in the flesh, just by someone offering her food. And she's mentioned that at least once before. And I reckon that Esther has some sort of eating issue going on. I really do believe that. But anyway, one thing at a time. Let's continue.
even today, I was going to cover something else, and the Lord told me, no, go back and close the ark. Go back and close what you were working on. There's another prophecy, by the way.
Go back and close what you have been working on. What are you talking about? What are you? I mean, please stop.
Way that is called Incoming. That one I think has 4 parts up so far, and there is still a piece of that prophecy that needs to be handled. So as God gives grace today, I might be able to handle that prophecy and bring it to a close. He was talking to me about closing things, completing things, so that people can be able to find closure in one message of the Lord, however many videos it may take. And so today is
So
called the
it's gone from prophecy to predicting and to downright just some assuming things about the here and now, which are happening now, and other people have long known before Esther. It has absolutely nothing to do with prophecy, of course. This is literally just a person trying to work through her revelations that she's her own personal revelations of the world, things that are happening in the world. I remember when I maybe 10 years ago first became aware of the fact that there was even no longer than 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, that there was people who were, you know, human trafficked and used for satanic rituals, and that the world basically wasn't what I thought it was. And it really shook me. And of course, I didn't have any hope at the time because I didn't put my trust in God. So it shook me really hard. And I remember being very afraid. But so this, I think, is what's similar what's going on with Esther. She's very paranoid. And it's like, she has received a big shock, which she actually admits later on in this video, which I will show you guys. And she's trying to work through that. That's actually, hold on, I wrote this down. Oh, I need my glasses again. 31 minutes down. Okay. Yeah, so let's deal with this first.
the beautiful men of America prospering by craft. The beautiful men of America prospering by craft. And truly, the Holy Spirit has really expanded what I've been working on, even more so by bringing in 3 old time Bible verses. We might call them definitely Old Testament Bible verses, both.
So now she's trying to link the Bible again, prophecies that were about Jerusalem, Israel, the 12 tribes, the reconciliation of the 12 tribes and the whole world back to God. Now she's linking and the judgment of his spiritual enemies, that God wanted actually everyone to come out of. Yeah, he didn't want anyone to perish. He called people out of that. She's linking all that to the here and now, to the Transvestigation, to Esther's revelations. Because you see, Esther, as she has admitted before, is used to reading fables as a very small child, and I've made videos about that as well. Actually, I've moved a whole lot of videos to a separate channel that's just about her, and I will put that in the description later on. Yes, she has said before in a different video that I covered that she has been reading fables from the time she could understand them, from very small, up to the time and even over when she was already born again, as she calls it. So, and of course, it was God, she says, who came to her and told her that all these fables and myths that she's been reading were true. And so, yeah, Esther, likes a good story.
Of them from prophets. One is from prophet Daniel and the other is from prophet Jeremiah. So when the time comes, if you have your Bible with you, we will definitely go to look at those 3 verses. However, the banner scripture for today's message, today is, I think it's August the 12th. So that is the date of this message, even though it's part of the original Beautiful Men message, which I received from God on July the 2nd, 2024. I received this message from the Lord on July the 2nd, 2024. And as I shared in the first video, this topic is not my favorite. This topic is not my favorite, not because I have anything against people who are gay or people who are trans. A lot of people seem to think that when the prophetic message is coming through, it has to be coming through some kind of personal feeling. And that just goes to show that prophecy hasn't been taught in the American church or even the global church in a very long time. And so when people actually...
I'm just fast forwarding it, okay, until I get to the next point, because there's a whole lot of babble She does, and it's really, really tiring. So I've already listened to all this. If you want to listen to this in slow motion, you need to go and check out her video.
Hear truth coming out, their responses are very odd, and it shows that they don't actually care about the character of the God they claim to serve. If you're a Christian and the Lord is exposing a lie, and then you're asking questions like, what is the point of this? Then clearly you don't know the character of God, because you're assuming that because you're comfortable living in lies, God.
So people are actually getting in touch with her by the sounds of it and are saying, what's the point of all this, Esther? Why are you talking about transvestigation? And really what they're trying to say is, I'm assuming that, what has that got to do with the judgment of the world, of America, more like, you know, or how are we who are not deceiving others responsible for those people, few, may I add, very few people who dress up as women, and in comparison to, to the billions that are actually living there on this world, um, who are dressing up and pretending to be men or women, what's that got to do with us? And that's probably what people are saying to her. And what's that got to do with the Bible and prophecy and so on, yeah? So now Esther, of course, damage control again. This is a lot of her videos are damage control. She's trying to make a point now why this is important and how it is linked to the Bible.
God is comfortable living in a lie. No lie can be allowed to exist around God.
So there you go. That's the first number one. If it's a lie, it needs to be exposed. Of course, unless, of course, the lie is coming from Esther. Then it's just pure confusion. Why would you even make videos about me? This goes out to Esther's followers who come to my channel and say, oh, why are you doing this? Get a life. Well, why don't you tell Esther the same message? Why don't you go and tell Esther, don't be hypocrite now, okay? Go and tell Esther, why are you making videos about exposing pastors in the churches who are homosexual or whatever, they've done something wrong? Why are you doing that? So it's okay, of course, for Esther to do it because Esther's special. But if anyone else wants to expose Esther and her lies, that's not okay. Actually, it's somehow demented or downright evil. Yeah, it's the followers of Esther are just a double talkers, just like Esther.
The personage of God, the character of God, the very nature of what he is as our God means that he is a bright light shining into all darkness. The darkness must flee. How odd to be a church that knows how to sing every darkness flee in the Christian song, but then when the practical work of causing the darkness to flee by shining lights into the dark corners begins, then everybody is shocked and they begin to call it the private life. Why are you exposing the private life? Whose private life? Whose private life is being exposed? Everybody's private lie shall be exposed because.
So yeah, just like we've exposed the LLC, the company there of Esther, called, how did you call it? Celestial Revival. Yeah. Just like we've exposed her, her past, some people have. I don't think it's that important really because, I don't know her heart about how she feels about that now today. And I didn't see her do anything wrong there, but there's people out there who are also exposing things. I'm exposing things, her lies about the end times, and her many lies about so-called prophecies, which have nothing to do with the Bible, and even her belief in a triune God, when it is just one God, and his name is Jesus, and all these things are being exposed yet. And these are things that are important because it puts people into bondage, as spiritual bondage in some way. Now, why would that not be important? It's very important. But here we have Esther, but that's, people don't want to know about that, right? But here we have Esther exposing people, exposing, you can't even say that because she's not exposing anyone. We expose someone when we have some sort of evidence. And we have a case, but that's not the case with Esther. She's just been Googling and probably watching videos late into the night of transvestigations of certain celebrities, and then assuming a whole lot and regurgitating it here for us to listen to. And people think that's fine. That is good judgment. Well, it's not good judgment at all. It's actually outward judgment. It's a carnal judgment. We are to judge the spiritual things. So they've got it upside down. I'm telling you, these people are led by not the Holy Spirit.
Because Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 11 says that you should have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. So definitely, everything that is being done in darkness is going to be cried out in the bright light. Everything that is being whispered in the inner rooms is going to be shouted from the rooftops. That much, I know at least, is biblical. God will absolutely refuse to dwell.
Yeah, that much at least that's right, because everything else you don't know. Of course, it's good to tell the truth about things and to expose the darkness. And but what has that got to do with prophecy? What has that got to do with the transvestigation, with the Bible, and with judgment against people who don't even know about it? That's the question here.
In the midst of a lie. And as you will hear from Prophet Jeremiah, there are consequences when God's people insist on dwelling in the midst of deceit. A lie is deceit. A lie is subterfuge. A lie is what is not true. A lie is evil. A lie is damaging. A lie brings in general sickness into the midst where.
Yeah, but guess what? When people don't know it's a lie, it's not their fault.
Lies exist, people's feet are not resting on the flat truth of reality. People are standing on a false platform. And what's going to happen when the day of the lie comes? What can we expect to happen when, as Proverbs 12 and 19 says, truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed? What's going to happen when the lies day of exposure comes? The false platform that people are standing on collapses. Now, depending on the size of.
And that's exactly what's going to happen to Esther, and is actually already happening. Because, of course, she has at least 2 of her so-called predictions, prophecies have gone wrong, which I'm going to cover next weekend. I think it's next weekend or the weekend after. So where we're going to be looking at what sort of prophecies actually have failed. So one prophecy fails, and Esther is a false prophet, of course. That's what people know, at least when they read the Bible, right? People who are following her, but they don't seem to care about that.
Of the lie, it may be a small lie, which means it's a small platform, and when the platform collapses, everyone might just take a brief fall and get some surface wounds. But what happens when the lie is actually platformed up to the heavens? What happens when the gap between where reality is, where the truth is, and the lie is so large that it's almost several skyscrapers long? When the lie collapses, every single person who still insists on resting upon that lie is going to go plunging down to their destruction. So Christians
insist on staying on that lie. For that to happen, we have to know it's a lie, to start off with. And we shall never know if someone is really a man or a woman unless they tell us. Because even if you watch videos of people and you think, oh, look, that Adam's apple is a little bit too big, this could be a man. I mean, you're an accuser, basically. And that's something that I used to do years and years and years ago. Used to go with that. And even recently, as a year ago, something like that, I posted a picture and I said, this is obviously a guy. And I regretted doing that. Because I actually don't know if it was a guy, and that's an accusation from me, because of making an outward judgment on someone's looks, which is so carnal, okay, which is so bad and carnal. maybe the person is a man, maybe the person isn't. First of all, what's that got to do with me or any of us? That's between this person and God. And why would I accuse someone of that? You know, it is down to the person to admit it. And when they admit it, then we know for sure. We cannot judge someone by a video that we watch, or because we look at someone's jawline or someone's back or whatever, No, it doesn't work like that. I know plenty of people, and I mean Esther's one of them, to be fair, who looks quite male in her physique, in her neck and her jaw, and I'm not saying she's male, but there's people out there who do women, who have very narrow hips. And I often wondered, how on earth are you going to push a baby out of that? But, who am I to judge that? That's not between me and them. That's between them and God. So Esther, again, she's just on a rant and she's discovered something. And she, of course, because she's so narcissistic, it's all about, it's all about her and her needing to prophesy about this somehow and give us the good news. And woe to us if we don't bow down to Esther and believe every single word she says.
Need to learn to take responsibility that when they are hearing God moving in the earth, exposing certain things, shining the bright light of the truth on certain things, revealing certain things, dragging out all hidden perpetrations, all hidden secret network and nefarious activities. When God is busy grabbing these things by their collars and dragging them into the light, it is very important to be very careful to stay out of his way, because when God is in the process of judgment, I want to let you know, as I said here earlier, that God said for me to tell, especially us in America, that there is enough for us too. God said to tell foreign nations that when he is in the process of judging America for her very many evil hidden sins, that there is enough for every foreign nation that gets in the way of that judgment.
I don't even know what to say to so much stupidity. I really don't. I really don't know what to say to that sort of nonsense. America's judgment, because she's so evil. Every single country has evil things going on. Every single country has abortions. I used to be told when I was little, or younger, that America, I've heard that quite a lot. Americans always believe that America is basically the world, and Europe or other countries are just like, I don't know, like Disneyland, like you just go and visit them. They're not really real, they don't really matter. It's just like America is the thing that matters, and everything else, you know, that's what I've heard quite a lot. Whether that's true or not, I don't know that. But certainly when I listen to Esther, it does come to my mind, that she somehow believes that America is the one and only country that has the worst this and the worst that, and of course that's not true. That's not true at all. There's plenty of countries out there. Great Britain, for example, that has I actually would say every single country has even Ireland that always tries to stay out of wars has had a civil war really here, not even too long ago, where people killed one another, and it was very, very bad. And I'm actually living at the border where of Southern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland, which is part of Great Britain still. And that used to be a terrible area for the IRA, for, killings and things done in the dark. And people were very suspicious and very... so they're only just coming out of that, and it's still going on. People know you're from England, or you can get funny looks, or even being treated differently. It's always still hanging in the air. Maybe not as much as it used to be, but it's still here because there's so much hurt and so much blood being spilled, lots of blood. And never mind the wars before that. So America is not the only country. Yeah. And it's just insane. That's why I'm saying, what can I say to that? What can I say to so much ignorance? Is it even worth talking about that? Because if someone wants to believe that and is so delusional to believe that America is the only country, then really, do these videos even matter? Will these videos even make a dent? I don't think so.
Every foreign nation that will stand up to defy God, to defy the objects by which God will bring his judgment, such as foreign nations coming to attack this nation, the United States. God wants every foreign nation to know, and I delivered it faithfully. God saying that if you get in the way of Mystery Babylon's judgment, there is enough within him, the judge, to share all of Babylon's punishments with you, whether that's an individual who's saying, no, it shall not happen, it shall not be, whether it's a nation, a group of people, there's enough for everybody to get some. And so those who are wise should know when the time comes for a lie to be exposed, that lie is going to collapse. You will find the structures, you will find all the hard work, you will.
And that's exactly what's going to happen to Esther, by the way. Yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen to Esther and her lies. Someone said in the chat, well, USA people believe USA is better at everything in this world. Well, Germany does the same. Germany thinks they're really good at this and they're really good at that. And yeah, so there's lots of countries who think that about themselves.
Find all the subterfuge, you will find all the effort, you will find all the expenses, all the resource, all the time, all the logistics, all the workers, everything that went into maintaining and manifesting that lie, simply falling away. The lie will.
And to be fair, America and Germany, just to use these two examples, are pretty, I don't know, of course, I don't know what it's like to live in America, but, I've ordered things from America, which sounds really ridiculous, but I know that they do really good. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know what's so bad about America, I do know that there's a lot of people living on the streets right now. That's what I hear anyway from my husband, who watches the news. Whether that was, why, I don't know. A lot of people are on drugs. Why that is, I don't know either. But every country has its pros and its cons, right? But Esther seems to really have some sort of chip on her shoulder when it comes to America. I don't know why, but the only thing that I can imagine is it has something to do with some sort of radicalization or something, political agenda behind it, I think, which somehow she's trying to link to the Bible. But I think she was brought up, it sounds like it, with people around her who are very much against America. Yeah. Because I remember once she said how her sister made a collage about, it took her a long time apparently, about the slaves, It's just, there's a time for peace, there's a time for war, there's a time for this, there's a time for that. It's time to move on. Okay? It's time to move on and be a bright light, a bright shining star, a light in the darkness. Stop wallowing in the past, looking back and saying, oh, woe is me. Well, I mean, you weren't even there, by the way. You weren't even there when there were slaves, okay? But yeah, like I said, but they're always looking at that, and somehow there's a hatred for America because of, for example, slavery and things like that. So I think she was brought up in that environment, and her sister as well. It's not just her. Um, oh, okay, so you live in, someone's here from America as well. Brooklyn, yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Will be left to itself. It will be brought out into the harsh daylight. It will be minimized. It will be exposed. It will become itself an object of mockery. And therefore, all those who want to stand by the lie are going to pick up all the judgments and punishments that the lie itself will get. And so I went over some very important scriptures in the first video that is called The Beautiful Men of America, The History of a Lie. Please make sure that you watch that video. One of the scriptures that was explained there is John 8 and 44. The Bible says plainly that you are of your father, the devil, if you make a practice of lying. So this goes two ways. The one who is actually lying will pick up the judgment and the indictment that can be found in John 8:44. But the one who also insists on their right to maintain the lie, to protect the lie, to participate in the lie, to believe the lie, and keep saying, I can't believe it because of these one or two outstanding issues.
So this is what I'm talking about here. You know, God doesn't even, what are you talking about? Yeah, he who lies is of the devil. That's what the Bible says. Yeah. So if I'm being lied to, if someone comes to me and says, I'm a woman and really they're a man, but are telling me I'm a woman, who am I to say, no, you're not, prove it? Go on, put your pants down. No, I'm going to have to believe them. That's the only option that I have, to believe them. And so what she's trying to say here is that if you don't believe what I'm telling you, that these people are all men, and just take it as, because I tell you to, because I say so, and I'm the mouthpiece of God, right? So I want you to disbelieve these people and believe me. And why? Well, because the judgment is going to come upon you if you don't. If you don't believe what I say, then you're going to be judged, just like the liars are going to be judged.
Seeing that when it comes to this topic, a lot of people, very tellingly women, I don't know if it's the nurturing nature in women or if it is just because, as the Bible says, we are the weaker sex. And therefore, in the old days, a lot of people used to think weaker, not only in constitution, but in mind as well. It is very telling that it is women who are fighting to maintain the lie in their.
Yeah. While someone says in the chat, while USA engages in war, yeah, so does England, so do other countries. Look at Ukraine, what's going on there. Racism is very alive. I don't know what that means. Racism is very alive. Serial killers. Oh, we also have serial killers. They're not just in America. Mass shootings. We don't have mass shootings because we are not allowed guns. So people don't really have guns here. We do have shootings though, they don't happen very often, but what happens very often is knife crime. Just again now recently a 10-year, actually in England, someone has gone in and murdered, killed young children. I think it was a school or something, and they were like 2 to 5 years old or something. My husband told me that. And it's just, I don't know what weapon he used, but yeah, so that's happening here too. That's what I'm saying. It's actually quite offensive to somehow believe that. Well, it's not offensive, but that in itself is a lie. To believe that America is the only country where bad things are happening. Serial killers are everywhere. Mass shootings are everywhere. Abortions are everywhere. So I'm not getting it. Racism is alive. I don't know what that means. But and look, I'm not saying America is perfect, and but I'm also not saying it's more evil than other countries. Yeah. Look at England, for example. And I don't even want to start talking about politics, but their involvement in Iraq, there was, I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the world that America's not the only one who gets involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in. Let's just put it that way. But, and I had actually a discussion with my husband the other day about this victim mentality. And, you know, we really need to come out of the victim mentality. It's not doing us any good at all. And if something bad has happened, yeah, something bad has happened, acknowledge it and then move on. But don't stay a victim, you know, don't stay a victim. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to, yeah, it's just going to make things worse, actually, rather than better.
Their midst that men are cosplaying, men are dressing up as pretending and living full public lives as women. It is not the men who are fighting against this truth. The men are struggling with the reality of it, perhaps. The men are quiet as they think of all the multitudes of women that they have played hanky-panky with in their minds. And
please, someone tell me what that has to do with anything about God. Really. It's just so boring listening to this. It's someone's you know, thoughts or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's just
with their bodies in many cases. So the men are quietly dealing with the shock of knowing that they've been attracted to men. Men are quietly struggling with the question of, well, am I gay if I've been attracted to a Jessica Alba, if I've
wow, this is just so evil. You know, this is so evil, I'm telling you, because what she's saying is, guys, you've not really been attracted to a female, but this female is really a male. Remember, there's no evidence for any of that. These are just assumptions. And even if it was so, that's not to any this has nothing to do with the man who was actually lusting after this person. Yeah, this is not no fault of theirs if they did that. But then to say that it will, they're wondering now, oh, maybe you're gay, maybe you're homosexual. How stupid are you? How stupid are you? I mean, seriously. You know, let's take this fictional character of this man lusting after this actress who really is just, who is not an actress but an actor. It's a male. And now this man is sitting there in his bedroom thinking, man, I used to fancy women, but this woman is not really a woman, it's a man. So maybe I'm really a homosexual. What are you talking about? I mean, how stupid do you have to be to believe this? This is so immature to the level where I just want to pack up and finish the live stream, because I literally, this is not even worth exposing. It's that dumb that everyone should be aware of this dumbness. Really. I feel literally offended having to even mention this, you know? I mean, does anyone get me out there? Can anyone feel me?
I've been attracted to a so and so, does that make me gay, celestial? So men are struggling with that. But who you find clustering in the front are the females. The females are here, right? Here's some of what the females are doing. Well, so and so has 2 children. You know this how? Your children have been to that person's house on a play date?
Well, have you been in this person's house on a play date? Have you been there when this couple had sex? Were you there at the birth? No, you weren't. What you were is watch the video. You watched the video where people made guesses as, no, this person is not really a male, a female, which may be true or not, but it's just a guess. It's an assumption. And worse than that, it's a carnal judgment. Okay, it's a carnal judgment. So, were you there, Esther? I mean, the same goes to you, for you. Don't be a hypocrite, you know? Have you been there? No.
Were you the doctor or the attending at this so-called celebrity birth that you're standing up for? Part of what this series God is using to do is to expose to people how very gullible people are. People are very, very gullible. Anything that you put in front of them by the medium of television, especially by the medium of screens, if you use screens to give people information, for some reason the presence of the screen seems to tell people that they are picking up something that is so infallible, it's so unquestionable, you can't knock it down, it's on struts of.
I mean, she knows all the manipulation, doesn't she? Because that's exactly what you're doing here, Esther. Trying to sell people something on the screen.
Tempered steel with cement poured over it, and it's fixed fast, and yet it's a screen. And by the same token, the same screen will be used to show the same people a movie, a miniseries, a fantasy, a fiction, a story, a storyline, a movie, a miniseries. Something will be put on the same screen in front of those people, and they will watch
The miniseries, like how does Esther call it? Her playlists, you know, the slavery series. Yeah, she calls it the slavery series, and then she's got many different series, right? Esther, she's just so full of it.
it, and their brain will tell them, oh, this one is a movie. But then they will come and watch the same fictionalized mainstream news, for instance. They will come and watch the people who were in the movie, then sit down and do so-called documentaries. And then the people in the documentaries will tell them one or two or five facts. And then the same people who maybe saw that person wearing a pregnancy belly, okay, so she's 110 pounds, she's 120 pounds, but in the movie, she's playing perhaps a woman who falls in love with a man and marries the man and then is pregnant. And during the pregnancy time, you even see her mowing the lawn, and she's in shorts, and she's in a
It really comes to the front right here that Esther is a creative writer. You know, that's how she calls herself when she wrote an article for a wedding once. You can see that in one of my videos as well. And she wrote this lovely story for this newlywed couple, and she signed it with being a creative writer. And of course, it goes way back to her reading all these fables and myths. And nowadays, of course, Esther says that these sort of stories are no longer really, you know, they used to be a lot better back then. That's basically what she says. These fantasy stories of going into a hole under the tree. I think that's what she called it, or something like that. You know, you go off into a fantasy world, basically. And she believed that. And God came to her and told her that these myths are all real. So this is what we're listening to here. Esther being really in her element and telling a really good story. And she's, you know, that's what she's good at. She's good at giving people a picture in their mind. Because every sentence that she says it with such importance. You know, she literally says empty things, but she makes them sound so important because of the way she speaks them, you know.
short halter, and the belly is out. And as you watch that belly in the movie, it's perfect, it's seamless, it's her skin tone, it exactly looks like her. And then skip ahead, get the narrative moving a little bit, and we go to the operating room, and there we see her straining and struggling. And if it's one of these so-called gritty reality movies, then they're going to have this woman in various poses of obvious nudity, in which her femaleness that she's actually not showing, it's not hers, they're actually showing you something synthetic, as well as the pregnancy is heaving. You watch it moving, and you actually feel transported into what is nothing but a false, fake, prosthetic, synthetic, carefully crafted, watch my fingers as I do quotations, birth experience.
I just can't, really. watch my fingers, quotation marks, because you're really dumb. You need to watch what I do, and you need to hang on my every word so you can understand what I'm trying to tell you. You riffraff down there.
They make it as real as possible for you. Then 2 weeks later, the woman is back to 120 pounds because she was never carrying a baby. She's in Cannes, she's in London at the BAFTAs, she's everywhere else on the Oscar or the Emmy circuit, thin as a rail in expensive designer gowns, and is being asked about a pregnancy that she never carried. You're able to look at the fake pregnancy and get sucked into the moment, and it feels like that so-called baby fighting to come into the world. His so-called battered mom, maybe in the movie, has been fighting to bring him into the world. And then immediately when the spell is over, you're able to then snap back into your reality brain, see the woman skinny, know that she was carrying no baby. But then you can't marry these two worlds together. And you know what? Hollywood depends on that dissonance. Hollywood.
This is just exactly Esther's exactly describing what's going on when I watch her videos. You know, she's drawing people into this story and wanting people to come with her into this story that she's telling, and she's telling it really in great detail. You know, if you've ever wondered why Esther goes into such great detail, well, it's because she wants to give the listener a how do you call it? How do you call it in English? Get their imagination going. Okay, that's why she does that, because it's and people are drawn in, and then you need to snap out of it again. You know, you need to snap out, but people, they don't snap out. It's like they're in the comment section. I often read, "Oh, I'm so afraid. Have I taken the mark of the beast now? Have I done this? You know, what about my neighbor? Oh yeah, I've seen." They can't get out of it. They're very afraid, these people. Now I remember again this woman who came to me and told me about her relationship with her husband was near divorce. You know, she was going to divorce him, thinking about it. And her husband was literally crying to her, begging her to come back home. As in, you know, snap out of it, come back, you know, where are you? And she was adamant, no, you're just, we're unequally yoked. And she was spouting all the words that Esther used to say. And then by the grace of God, you know, probably through prayer and whatever else, she was able to snap out of it and being told the truth, because she actually came to my video as well, that she watched, and probably other videos as well. And it made her realize that Esther was actually a liar, and she had been deceived. She had been drawn into this magic fable that Esther likes to tell, you know, based on her own paranoia and fear of the world. And she draws people into it, and they are so hooked. Like someone said in the chat, you know, it's like a cult. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. People are not realizing it. It's really terrible.
Would depends on you to forever keep the two minds separate, because in that position you are the
Quickly, before I let it continue, she even said about children, you know, didn't she say something about children having these evil spirits in them? You know, you can't even trust your own child, because your own child is going to grass you up, and you can't trust your mother, or you can't trust your siblings. It's paranoia and mistrust. No faith. It's the opposite of faith, you know. When we walk with God, we walk in faith. And when someone comes to us and says, well, I'm a woman, who am I to say, no, I don't believe that? You know, if they've lied to us, then that's between them and God. But I'm not going to go around and say, oh no, I don't believe that person. I think they're lying. That's a terrible thing to say. Hi, by the way, to the chat, Child of the King. Nice to see you.
perfect candidates to continuously inhabit a lie. So I find it very odd that in the mere few days that I have been touching upon this grandiose, and very graphic, obscene lie that offends against God's design in creation, it is Eve herself The irony, it is shaming actually. It is women who have come to the forefront to defend a man's right to be a woman. It is women who have come to the forefront to fight for all their she heroes.
And of course, Esther's getting all this information from TikTok. Now, imagine a world without the internet. Imagine a world without TV. Who would Esther be talking to? And more importantly, who would Esther be talking about? There would be nothing. We wouldn't hear from Esther, and we wouldn't hear, we wouldn't even know she existed, because Esther is watching videos and watching the news, and because she has the internet and she can talk to everyone on the internet, that's why we're hearing about it. That's the only reason.
It is females who are at the very front. I have a few questions. If you're going to use a neck, my neck is also skinny. My neck is also bony. Does your neck have a protruding Adam's apple in it? Because we surely know the difference between a trachea, which everybody has. Even a chicken has a trachea. That's when you go and get that trachea fried, they call it neck bones.
Really? I mean, do we really have to go down that way, of frying a chicken's neck? So what she's saying, and this is what I mean, these details, why? But it's all to create the smoke and mirrors, because someone has just come to her and said, well, my neck is also skinny, whatever that means, my neck is also skinny. So she's trying to damage control again, and she's blowing a whole lot of hot air out, which is the chicken neck, basically. That's part of that, which I just really want to forget about again. So now listen to what she's saying. As far as I can remember, when I listened to it the first time, she's now trying to say that only men have an Adam's apple, and women have this windpipe, this word she just named. And men as well, men have that also. But it seems that Esther thinks that only men have an Adam's apple. Mind you, her daddy is a doctor. We will have to Google that and ask Google if that's true.
They call it neck bones. So even a chicken has a trachea. But it's very disturbing when women cannot tell the difference between the presence of a trachea in the neck, no matter how bony your neck is that you're claiming, some of you, and the presence of an Adam's apple, which we can all see as soon as teenage boys start developing. As soon as teenage boys get that testosterone kicking in, then that is one of the things that start developing in the male. You probably won't see an Adam's apple in your little male baby, but as he begins his inevitable journey into manhood, that thing makes a sign. So it's very strange that everybody...
So maybe someone can do a quick research, I don't know, and just let people know whether actually females also have an Adam's apple. I don't know that, okay? But I can't move away from this video. I'm gonna lose where I'm at. So maybe someone can just have a quick search of that.
Everybody went through school, and I'm not expecting there to be a lot of 5th graders and 9th graders here watching these kinds of prophecies, but it seems that a lot of mature adult women don't know the difference between the trachea that's in all their necks, that is even in the neck of an older woman. When older women start to get older a little bit, they do start to have a little bit of a hollow here. And the difference between taking the trachea...
Just can't. This woman, she really believes she's so important. I mean, they have a little bit of a hollow here. It's just so ridiculous. Oh man, it's so funny.
which basically is a pipe. Doctors call it the windpipe sometimes. Shaving that thing down, because the top part of the trachea is where you will get the Adam's apple protruding. So here's the trachea here, and then you're going to get that Adam's apple kind of coming up like an unwanted, unsightly bump when these men who are not women begin to enter into the stages where they start to need the major surgeries. So something has to be done about this. And what they do is called shaving. They will shave it down for it to mimic as much as possible a normal rounded female windpipe. But the problem with that is that for all of us, as age comes upon us, flesh, that is meat, as well as collagen and firmness begins to make its exit. That is just part of the normal process of aging. And so when this stuff begins to make its exit.
So thanks, Tasha, is that your name, for your research there. I've shown it on the screen. So it looks like both male and females have an Adam's apple, Esther. Yeah, because, I mean, I can feel mine. You can't actually see it, but yeah, I would think that I have an Adam's apple. But so Esther got that one wrong as well.
As well as there come a large influx of testosterone into these men. Women, have you ever heard of this thing called perimenopause and menopause?
No, please go away. We don't want to hear your medical, I don't know. Yeah, so it looks like both males and females develop an Adam's apple. But like you said, it's not always very pronounced, or how you call it. It's not very, developed. But some females have it developed more than others, surely, and some females even have people have some sort of illnesses where the neck looks weird. I mean, you can't always look at a neck and say, well, wow, this means that's a male. You can't do that. And why would you want to do that? I mean, I was in a shop the other day with my husband, and there was very obvious male person, but he put a little bit of lipstick on. I mean, poor soul, poor soul. And because he's so lost, really. And he's doing his shopping, and he seems to be going around me and my husband a lot. I don't know. He was always there wherever we were for some strange reason. And I just felt like he was very jealous of what me and my husband had, especially me being a woman. These people are very sad. Of course, they're deceiving themselves and others, and that's between them and God. And we tell them the truth about it, but they have a whole lot of my compassion as well. Not just we have to, they're terrible people. Yeah, sin is terrible. Yeah, sin is terrible, whatever it might be, homosexuality or lying or whatever. But where's your compassion for those people? Esther is all about just, I don't know how to call it. It's there's no love, there's no compassion, there's no I don't know, it's just weird. Just coldness.
Perimenopause and menopause are what we call in the
Oh yeah, do not talk about perimenopause. Oh no, we've got a fellow sufferer here in the chat. Yeah, same. I actually keep getting the hot flashes. Yeah, so it's horrible, and of course hormones as well. Oh, it's awful.
female life, the change. So when women start to go into the change, their estrogen begins to go haywire, causing changes in the body, such as the hot flashes, such as increased irritability. Sometimes a woman's desire for intimacy with her husband will decrease. All those things, women are experts in those things. But then because
And again, it's really, really obvious, she is such a fraudster, because everything that she talks about, even the menopause that everyone knows about, or most people don't even care about unless they have to go through it. But I mean, she could literally sell ice to Eskimos. Isn't that saying like that? You know, she could literally, because even the most mundane things, boring things, she sort of back packages them in a way that it makes it almost, with a carnal ear I'm talking, exciting somehow. Or wow, what's going on there? I want to hear more. Do you know what I mean? It's what fraudsters do. It's like this woman who sent money to someone who she met online, to the point where she actually committed, where she unlived herself. Yeah, I don't want to say the name. She is no longer with us because he took thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars away from her, and she didn't realize that he was a fraudster. That's because she was lured in, into this. It's almost like a spell, and this is what she does. She talks about the most mundane things, and yet she talks about it like it's some sort of new revelation. Yeah, and people are buying this. I mean, it's incredible. She's selling it and they're buying it.
Because women have never actually been in the bodies of the men that they're defending. Women usually don't know that men experience what is known as, in some circles, as a testosterone dump. That's what men go through when they're starting to age. In a normal man, one of the things that testosterone dump will do is that his so-called drive will go into overdrive. You will start to find that men, instead of getting tired like...
And this is important why? Someone tell me, please. This is important why? I'm almost losing it here on this side of the screen, okay? Because why am I listening to this? Why?
Women do as they age for the urge for intimacy, that is when husbands are most at risk at wanting a pretty young thing. Because they...
So now all the women out there, Tasha, right, myself included, got to watch your husbands, because they're going to have, according to Esther, their sex drive is going to go through the roof, while our sex drive is going to go right down to the basement. And more paranoia, you have more fear. Keep an eye out on your husband and any young girls around. Okay, what a joke. What a joke.
and their wife are out of sync at that particular time of life. And part of the thing that the testosterone dump will do is make a man randy. But another thing is that it will grossly change his features. So if you are a man who has gone through puberty blockers, for instance, the modern trans nowadays, they're not hiding the use of puberty blockers. You can see the effeminates walking around in our society. You can see them easily without the need for Celestial to point you to where their YouTube channels are.
Yeah, exactly, Esther. That's exactly right. We don't need a so-called prophet to tell us, oh, look, there's people out there who take puberty blockers. No, because it's already been known, and been known for at least a decade. And so why are you telling us this when, by your own admission, there's lots of information about it? Well, because Esther's only just found out about it, 2022. That's what she's going to tell us soon. And for her, it's all a new revelation. And she needs to share it with the whole world, because in her narcissistic mind, it's God telling her these things, and he wants us all to know about these things, because for some reason, Esther cannot comprehend the fact that we actually know something that she didn't. Yeah. We actually know things that Esther didn't know, and she's only just finding out.
You can see them, and when you see them, they look exactly like women. They look like women. They sound like women. They're soft like women. They're pretty like women. They've grown out their hair. They don't have any male angled jaw. So you can see, I will continue to defend God in this matter. You have two eyes and you have a thinking mindset. And you...
So defending God. Why are you defending God? God doesn't need your defense, and Esther. I mean, who are you? The Power Ranger or something? I don't know. This is just again nonsense.
You can see the success of the modern day trans. You can see them in our midst. But somehow you cannot marry the evidence that indeed we do have men who look just like women walking around among us, and they're not hiding it. They're not trying to deny it. They're actually sitting on their YouTube channels explaining the process to a whole wave of men who are standing in line.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're doing. And guess what, darling? We reap what we sow. So what that means is when we do these things to ourselves or to others, we will reap that. We will yeah, we will be judged for that, and our life is not going to be good. And that's what we all have to deal with our own behavior. Just like these people, you see a lot of people now. You see a lot of people who are actually on YouTube and who have been deceived themselves and have deceived others as well into thinking that they are male or females when they weren't. And they are now in pain. They have reverted back to being how God made them, but they're very much in pain. A lot of people I have heard of now talking about it. They cannot go to the toilet properly. They have no sex drive. They'll never have children. These people are deeply depressed, of course, and they're reaping what they sowed. Okay, and in all that, they have turned back, and we don't know their relationship to God now. In their despair, they may turn back to God, their creator, and say, my God, what did I do? Please forgive me. Because that's what I did. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what hopefully you guys did, that we were wrong, that we were sinning against God, and then we came to our senses, yeah, and asked for forgiveness. And guess what? God's grace was there. Yeah, that Esther tells everyone there's no more grace. BS.
She's watching
BS.
She's in a bubble. She's watching. Yeah. There's a lot of that on the internet with these transgender people, and they're very arrogant and self-assured. And you should send a link to the people who are listening of that guy. Do you remember the guy?
Yeah, I will send some links in the description box
amazing.
after, actually.
He wasn't Christian, but his testimony, he was saying afterwards what I've done. He said, I realised now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually
waiting for medical clearance, waiting for their medical aid to come through and approve their use of hormones so they can start growing their breasts, so they can start experiencing their collagen influx. The collagen influx and the estrogen influx is what actually takes a little girl through her puberty and starts to bloom her into a maiden and then a young woman. So there's a ton of men that you can see with your eyes now as the trans debate is raging in the United States, because it's not really raging anywhere else but here, because this is the land of all final sicknesses.
So there you go. Esther is always stuck on TikTok, on YouTube, and she is obviously also living in Brooklyn, as Tasha has said here in the chat. But yeah, she lives in Brooklyn in New York. I think it's basically in it's. No, I don't want anything yet. My husband's just going now. She lives in this place where there's a lot of that going on, I guess. I used to live in Berlin once. I also lived in London. These are big cities. And obviously you see people, especially in Berlin. I mean, Berlin, let me tell you, is filled with transvestites. I mean, even in the 1920s, this was a huge thing, yeah? So the point I'm trying to make is, what was I going to say? Hold on.
So you see the men lining up to get all final sicknesses.
So yeah, my point is that this is happening in other countries as well. Yeah, this is not just America. Please stop. It's really arrogant. Again, you're living in a city where this is happening a lot. When you live outside of a city, big city, like I live in rural Ireland, for example, but I also lived in villages before. I was actually born in a village or a bigger, a smaller city. You don't see any of that, hardly anything. Like I said, the other day, I met one man who dressed up as a woman, and he was, hovering around us, and poor guy. But so maybe Esther is confronted with a lot of that in New York, especially New York, big city and all that. But it's not that common. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, it's more common. Well, people say she's saying that it's more common now than it used to be. But the only thing that's changed is that we have the internet. You see? And I always say to my husband, if I didn't have the internet, if I didn't have the TV or whatever, I wouldn't even know that there was a war going on in Russia, for example. I would find out somehow, maybe, but just like back in the day in the Bible, there was things going on in other parts of the world that other people knew nothing about, and we literally had to care and worry about the things that were here in our area. Yeah, but like I said, Esther is able to talk about all these things because she's watching TikTok.
So you see the men lining up to get access to the things that medical science agrees can bring about the female beautifying process. So it's not exclusive to us then. Through the use of synthetic drugs, we see many, many men in our midst beautifying themselves into beautiful men who sit publicly stating that there are men. So you can see that it's possible. The only part that you keep ruling out is that it's not possible because a bunch of transgenders and transsexuals did it decades ago without disclosing the process. So because the process was hidden, the process was secret, the process was centuries old, the process going to talk about the collapse of reality.
Let's move on to the next point. That was the point I was talking about earlier, where she says, let's listen to it.
Reality. That's why this particular version of the Beautiful Men of America, which I will simply call Part 4, Prospering by Craft, I'm going to show you here with the help of the Holy Spirit how easy it is to bring subterfuge and craft into a people who are willing to be lied to. Remember the fundamental premise of
people who are willing to be lied to. Who are you? I doubt that there's people out there who are willing to be lied to. I mean, even if there are, who am I to judge that? Do you know what I mean? Surely we all stand before God by ourselves, us, me and you, and then God, and we have to give an account. So I don't know what she's on about.
this particular type of revelation, which is coupled with prophecy, because the prophecy attached to the Beautiful Men of America is basically that we're going to lose the battle of sexuality. I've been bringing that prophecy here since, I would just pin it at 2022, because that is where most of the prophecies concerning aberrant sexuality, broken sexuality, twisted sexuality in America, it's 2022, Celestial's personal year of trauma.
I'm going to rewind that in a minute again. So Celestials, she talks about herself in the third person again. Celestial's personal year of trauma. That's exactly what happened to her, because she was told a few things by someone else, not by God, because she talked about that before. As someone sent her pictures on her WhatsApp and told her, look, this is really a man. And I think over 80 messages that person sent her that evening. And so she was bombarded with that. And that was her. 1 second, please. Okay, so let's just listen. I've forgotten what I was going to say now.
Learning things, seeing things, dreaming things, and God just point blank telling me things in my face. Aberrant 2022. Mental premise
You know your pet best. So if you've noticed changes in your dog's activity recently, check pain and
We're adding another wall to this house that is collapsing around many people. It's where most of the prophecies concerning
Sorry about that, guys. I'm telling you, this is part of my pre-menopause, what's going on right now. I'm extremely on edge, okay? And my husband, my poor husband, he's coming in, he's telling me he's going away, he needs to go shopping. And I'm like, yes, please just go shopping and let me do the live stream. And I just get so, and this is just not like me, you know, I'm so impatient. And then I get all fidgety, and then I'm clicking this bloody video away, and now I have to look for the Oh, it's really bad. For those of you women out there who know, the menopausal thing is awful.
aberrant sexuality, broken sexuality, twisted sexuality in America. It's 2022, Celestial's personal year of trauma. Learning things, seeing things, dreaming things, and God just point blank telling me things in my face. This is what it is. You need to understand this. You need to come up. God says that we're going to lose the battle for sexuality in this country because America's judgment is that she is a reprobate nation. But if we fight God and we say that we are not reprobate, look around us. We have morals. We have churches. Yeah, but not for long. Not for long. How can you have churches that can operate when you're apostle?
Since when is having churches, what's that got to do with anything? This woman, I'm telling you, she's so religious. She has no idea what it actually means to walk with God, to be a child of God, to be a friend of God. Because you see, just like Abraham didn't go to a church, but he was a friend of God. And that was because he believed in God, and he therefore heard him, you know, and obeyed. That was his good works. And that was his righteousness, because he had faith in God and did what God told him to do. So what are you talking about? The churches, or we don't have any churches, and you are so religious. You don't have a clue about God. I'm telling you, 100% spiritually blind.
Catherine Crick is a whole dude. That's a whole man. That's a male man. That's the malest of the men. According to what picture or what clip you watch of her, you can actually see that it's a man in superb drag. And not only that, but there is a female double. Some of the clips you look and you can see that's a real woman. And then you look again and you will clearly see the exact kind of trans man who was not successful. There are some men who are not successful at transing. They're simply not able to make the transition smoothly. I guess.
Really? Well, thank God for Esther, eh? I mean, would have never guessed it otherwise, you know. What was her trauma? Her trauma was hearing from her friend, not from God, but her friend, that there's people out there who pretend to be women when they're really men. And she was sent a whole lot of pictures into her WhatsApp, and she was going through it, and she was totally shocked. And it was so traumatic for her. Yeah. That's the trauma she's referring to.
That's just where we find Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9, which is that God cannot be mocked. You simply cannot come and play with biology and think you will be successful at it. The more trained your eye is, the more you will be able to see the man, no matter what he does. This part, it's not by, there are trans who go beyond the clavicles. They go beyond the Q angle of the hips. Men have forward-facing pelvises, and women's pelvis, I was trying to explain to a friend recently, is almost like a bucket seat. And the reason that we have that tilting...
You know, she's spouting out all these things. I mean, what's that got to do with God, first of all? And prophecy, to be precise. But she's spouting out all these things that I listened to years ago. And these are the, how do you call it? Things that they bring up in videos all the time when they do this transvestigation of certain celebrities or certain people. They have points that Esther's talking about now. You've got the back, which they call a spoon back, because the back of a woman is slightly different to the back of a man. But mind you, there's women out there who don't have very female backs, you know. you see that some women have very narrow hips, for example, as well. But she's bringing up these points now. You've got the jawline in a certain way, Adam's apple. You've got the hips are different. Some say the knees are different, and so on. It's just different points, and that's what we're hearing now. Dr. Esther.
Pelvis is because it's fine when you're walking, but once you start to get the baby, that pelvis tilts right under their little selves like a bucket seat. Even the way the abs form. When men get a six-pack, men's six-pack to six-pack side to side, men's six-pack right across. They're able to build a solid wall of muscle. When you look at the female six-pack will almost form little ice cubes resting one upon another. Why? It's the best you can do with a receptacle that is going to be able to poof out unexpectedly when it's time to have a baby. It is amazing how this flat tummy, when
Do we really have to listen to this? No, we don't. I think we move on to the next point before I lose my rag. Okay. It's 36 minutes. I don't need a medical session with Esther. With Esther's imagination. I really don't. Let's see what else is there.
it's just going to be a storm drain tsunami washing many spiders out. The serious spiders, I know that they have their rappel gear on. They've got click claws on the spout, and they are making sure that they're not getting washed out no matter what. Do the word, do the work. All of that is your responsibility. It's not Pastor Boyd's responsibility. It's not Sister Hendricks' responsibility. It is not Deaconess Pemberton. Even when she is promoted from sister to deaconess, it's not her job. It is your job to secure your soul.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to rewind it again, and I want people to hear this. You have to do the work to secure your soul. Okay?
They're not getting washed out no matter. The serious spiders, I know that they have their rappel gear on. They've got click claws on the spout, and they are making sure that they're not getting washed out no matter what. Do the word, do the work. All of that is your responsibility. It's not Pastor Boyd's responsibility. It's not Sister Hendricks' responsibility. It is not Deaconess Pemberton. Even when she is promoted from sister to deaconess, it's not her job. It is your job to.
Who are these people? Deaconess this and pastor that. I mean, she's literally in a fantasy world.
Secure your soul and make sure that you are clinging to the mountainside that is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You're not clinging to Sidney McLaughlin, who?
Yeah, who? What are you talking about? I'm really like, how are we clinging to Jesus by listening to you talking about transvestigations and researching this for ourselves and assuming that some women are really just men? How is that clinging to Jesus? How is that us doing work for our soul and our salvation? How? You have been deceived, dear Esther. You have been pulled down a rabbit hole. You're going down a rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland, and you're falling. And you're pulling everyone with you. You want other people to come with you. No, I'm not coming down with you. It's not going to happen. This has nothing to do with salvation, has nothing to do with God, has nothing to do with Jesus. This is just your mind coming out. You have been deceived and you're trying to make sense of your confusion, but you don't want to admit to yourself that you need to let it go. You need to let these people do what they need to do. Tell them the truth. Whatever the Lord says is the truth for you to tell them, and then let them go.
You're not clinging to Venus who, Serena who, Simone who, Farrah Fawcett who, James Lee Curtis who? None of them. You're not clinging to the beautiful men of America, because how pitiful if your identity as a female is clinging to a man. How pitiful if the style advice that you have followed since the 60s was taught to you by a man. Do big blush, do big bold rouge, darling. Why? Because he
Okay, I mean, really, seriously, this is ridiculous now, okay? Um, yeah, you have been getting your makeup ideas from a man, really. So what? So what? If that's really the case, and this person, whoever gave me advice, which is no one, by the way, but just imagine I'm someone who got advice about my makeup from a man, really, when he said it was a woman, but really it's just a man. So what? So what, Esther? Please cop on.
needs to cover those blade cut man cheeks. As I said, the Kardashians have people out here like straight clowns these days. And why? That is what they need. They need the BBLs to grant shape. You see, the other one cut like the side of a mountain has miraculously disappeared. That 6-foot child, Chloe, just miraculously disappeared. I think in 2018, 2019, came back as a small, petite blonde. And I said, Lord, do these people think that we are lacking the mental faculties? They think that
So Esther, of course, has been watching famous people and watching their lives gossip basically for years. What are these people doing? What are these people doing? Fine, if you want to watch that, fine. Just admit it though. She's like, I don't do that. I don't watch videos. I don't watch movies or whatever. I don't. You are all over those videos. You are all over them. That's how you know all these details. So the double talk, the lying that you are actually doing, Esther, is unbelievable.
we have enough brain cells left to go to jobs and pay taxes. And then we will not notice that this sister that was always towering over the other sisters suddenly went away for a while and came back and then told us, oh no, I had a bit of work done. The face is different. The bone structure is different. People dragged that woman, but eventually they gave up. They dragged her, trying to make her confess. And she kept saying, no, I admit I had a bit of surgery done. And people said, no amount of face surgery will chop off inches from your frame. Where did the rest of you go? You're not the same person. So we're living.
It's like there was a woman once, I think it was years ago, I'm not sure, but there was a woman who said that she was of African descent. I think something like that. And then it came out that she wasn't. I think she had curly hair, blonde hair, I don't know, something. But the point I'm trying to make is, she was lying to people, and that was terrible. She was found out then later. It was really embarrassing for her, I think. But the point is, how sad do you have to be to lie about your identity, to want to believe that you're someone else? I mean, in the extreme cases, people are so afraid for whatever reason. For this guy, for example, he was actually, let me give you this example, yeah? This man who was brought up obviously as a boy, but he experienced extreme abuse as a little boy. And he pretty soon understood that his sister or his mom or whoever it was, the female, didn't. But it was only him as a boy, because of certain things that boys had or whatever, he wasn't manly enough, or I don't know what it was, but he got severely abused from his father because of certain things, and he grew up very disturbed, didn't understand, of course, why he was feeling in a certain way. But then when he got older, he wanted to become a woman, and he put all his energy into that. And my heart goes out to this man. He's now making videos. He is transitioned back to being a man, and he is now in therapy. He talks about the trauma that he went through and how he, in his despair, tried to get away from this abuse in his mind. to the extent of imagining himself to be a different person. So, what I'm trying to say is not everything is clear cut. Yeah. Not everyone who's walking around pretending to be a man or pretending to be a woman is doing it because they are somehow wanting to cause the destruction of our sexuality. They may just be extremely traumatized and in a really bad situation. And actually, we don't have to agree with what they're doing and still tell them the truth, but we can give them some compassion in the place that they're in, because it must be absolutely horrific to hate yourself to the point where you have to change. Yeah. And my heart goes out to those people, whether it's they want to change their sexuality, the color of their skin, whatever it might be. God made us a certain way, and we don't feel comfortable in that. It's a sad place to be. So I wish Esther, but Esther, like I said, there's no love in Esther, no love. And you can always see it every time I stop the video. Her face is always like stone. Harsh, cold, aggressive. I don't know. It's
Living in America, and people will not accept that we're in a land where doubles play roles. We're in a land where doubles play roles. You do not know that at the high elite level, one person is popping off stage and another person is popping in stage. You think that it's only Mr. Macron's wife who can do that. You think it's only Mr. Macron's wife whose brother will pop off into disappearance and then Mr. Macron himself pops in as a woman. You think that's a French problem. You think here in America, with the overarching Hollywood that we have, you think that Hollywood wouldn't dare step off the set, off the soundstage, and come to us live and direct through documentaries, through this is my story. Then you see the celebrities coming out with their story. Something like a line that goes that way. And you can plot that line, and that line is supposed to at least show you the standard deviation. If you're an American, I would like to let you know that the upper echelons, where the very, 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 very wealthy people who like to wear their sweaters over their shoulders are, they
people who like to wear their sweaters over their shoulders. Are you kidding me? So people, just make sure you don't wear your sweater over your shoulder, okay? Because according to Esther, you're gonna be part of this certain type of person here. I mean, she's so immature, it's unreal.
they represent in their midst high quality standard deviations. In their midst, people like Bill Gates, whose daughter I showed you is straight as a hot dog with a very, very strong male gaze. We will talk about the male gaze. I will just try to remember everything that I said we will talk about. The male gaze is hauntingly strong. The male gaze is why when the actual male shows up on TV and stares at the camera, everyone is like, I wish I hadn't gotten married so fast. The male gaze, I was telling my intercessor, is created by God to cause that effect. We are not animals. We are.
So she's got intercessors. I mean, this is so ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, I was talking to my intercessors and I told them the male gaze has been developed for that reason,
far, far above the animals. But God
Really?
has given us
Really?
things that will call and attract the opposite of the species to us. The male gaze is one of the most powerful arrows that they have in their hunting quiver.
Nah, I would actually say a woman's gaze, yeah, is the most powerful one, because I tell you what, we are not very powerful in our strength, but I do know that we're very powerful with our looks. Okay, when we look with our eyes, I know that for a fact. And we run the show. when you are in the household, and just like mares, yeah, like horses, you have a lead, you have a mare that leads the pack, and the male is running behind, and he's a protector. But the mayor is the one who says what goes. And I know Christians like to believe that, it's the other way around. Males, and God, of course, said, he said to those people back then, he said, not to us, by the way, but he said, that women, these sort of women, should submit to the husbands. Of course, he was talking to the church there in Ephesus, for example, or Corinth. They had made a shipwreck of the faith, and they were to become submissive. They were running wild, okay? But in general, it's actually the wife who has the gaze with the kids as well. You just give them a look, and they know exactly mommy means business. So I'm not talking about males following females. I'm not saying that they should submit to females. I'm not saying that, okay? What I'm saying is that the female look is actually really powerful, and much more powerful than men's looks. Because to be honest, let's be real, men, they're not really as how should we call it? I don't want to call it devious, but women can become very emotional and very there's just something about us. I don't know how to explain it. Men, they're just quite happy when they have, even as boys, give them a stick and some dirt, and they play, they play happily for hours in the dirt with their stick. Us girls, even when we're 5 or 8, we're already scheming. Okay, we're already saying, you're gonna go here, and we're gonna make a tea party, and you're gonna sit here, and you're gonna have your tea here. That's what we do. Yeah. And men, they just want to have a happy life. They want to have a quiet life. And so please stop with all that. By the way, Esther doesn't even know what it's like to be in a marriage. I don't even think she has a boyfriend. I don't know. But so I don't know where she's getting all this information from. Maybe other people out there think differently about the male gaze, and that's okay. You can do that. But it has been my experience that the only time when the male gaze is strong or whatever is when they're maniacs, like my dad. Okay, that was the only time when there was a male gaze that had some sort of thing going on because of the mania in it. Yeah.
And the female gaze also is what is given to God for her, given by God to her, for her to attract her male to her. The male gaze is something else. We usually call it smoldering. We don't say that ladies smolder, but when those men gaze out at you from underneath their ridged eyebrows, a man's eyes are usually set back deeper in the head so that their brows, both the brow bone and the eyebrows, can be more prominent.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Then they turn the gaze on you. Then the gaze begins to do its God-given, approved, heaven-approved work. But now we're in a world where the males are gazing out with their God-given, heaven non-approved stare from a female outside. And when men look at that, men are perceiving female, and therefore the gaze is therefore deadly upon normal straight men.
Is anyone getting this? Does anyone actually understand what she's talking about? I have no idea. I just stopped listening 2 minutes ago. I don't know.
Female is gazing into the male gaze, and it's having its effect on her. I just love her. I love her. Me too. So you.
Are you okay? Are you okay, Esther? There's so much anger in that woman about people who, she's obviously watching people's reaction, and she's stewing on it for sure, and it's all coming out when she does her videos. I just love her. I just love her. You know, these are the people who watch someone on TV and say, "Oh yeah, she's so great. I love her." So what? Let them be. You know, don't you think that God convicts all of us? You know, God convicts people, just like He convicted me of my wrongdoings, just like He convicts my husband of his wrongdoings. If people want to, I mean, what are you even? What's the argument even about? I don't even know what the argument is. That's what I'm saying. Does anyone understand what she's talking about?
You just love her, but you're not lesbian towards her. Why? Because you're also perceiving a female outside. So then
This is too much. I literally can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. This is just absolute nonsense.
the outside is definitely prospering by craft. Craft is high level deceit. I've covered.
You know what? You know what I'm experiencing right now? Literally experiencing her internal psychological dynamics. And it's very, very confused. It's like a bowl of spaghettis, like a muddled up yarn, you know? It's very, very confused and very dark. Very dark. I just got a glimpse of that. Just something experienced that is, you know, difficult to put into words. But Esther is talking for 2 hours here, and sometimes she's talking for 3 hours. And from the time she starts to the time she finishes, and this is very difficult. Yeah, this is very not difficult, but this is very you have to use a lot of energy, okay? So she's doing that full on, you know, because there's something really strong going on inside of her. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I've just experienced it, and I just say, wow. Anyway, I'm sure
here.
all about
If
that.
I've covered it in one video, I've covered it in 10. Craft, prospering by craft. That is deception. That is sleight of hand. So then what do you do when the reality you inhabit, the environment that you inhabit, the life that you're living in is actually made up of craft? What happens when Hollywood is bold enough, with the help of the richest at the top, for even the government is formed season after season and time after time by those who have been pre-selected years in advance. These people are pre-selected years in advance. They share similar childhoods. They play with each other, and they.
So this is again old news, of course, you know, that and again, I have actually listened to that at least a decade ago as well, when I was going down that rabbit hole, looking into all these conspiracies. And again, I'm not saying that they're not true or that they're true, because I don't know that. But yeah, you know, these presidents, they do know each other. It appears that they know each other. It appears that they even go to the same schools, like in England, for example, as well, the prime ministers. Yeah, so the world is can be a very evil place, and we are the light in it. You know, we shine the light, and we speak truth in our immediate surroundings. You know, I don't have to go and look, for example, over in Africa or in Russia. Let's use Russia, for example, because sometimes I talk to my mom about Russia, and she's really into politics. So is my husband, by the way. And she gets really worked up about it. And I'm saying, like, Mom, why don't you just concentrate on what's around you and be a good person to the people that you come in contact with? You worrying about something that's not even, you can't even see it. All you see is propaganda on TV on both sides. You can't do anything about it. So Esther is so wrapped up in someone else's business, you know, has nothing to do with her, has nothing to do with us. I don't understand. The only reason why she's probably doing that is because she's still traumatized, as she says, 2022, when she found all these things out and her bubble burst, basically. And now it's still going on. It's still going on. And it's literally doing my head in today. I don't usually find it that difficult, but I find it particularly difficult today. Maybe it's my hormones. I don't know. But there's just something really weird going on right now.
They are listed one after another in line for the so-called you think freely elected presidency. What are you going to do when those who make the mystery, those who make the movies, those who make the drama collude with those at the top and bring into perfect cohesive operation a reality that steps neatly off the soundstage, neatly off the movie set, and comes right into your reality? America, I propose to you this. You love reality TV? You're in the biggest reality show of your life. It's not a mistake that I brought a few weeks ago, that I brought an introduction specifically talking about the Truman Show.
So now she's going to talk about the Truman Show. And for those of you who know about the Truman Show, I think I've seen it a long time ago. Something to do with not reality is not really what it seems. Something like that, you know. And this is really showing us an insight into Esther's mind, you know, because to live in a reality or to live in a way that you believe that nothing is real, people are not really what they say they are. I can't trust my own senses. I can't trust God, you know, because he's obviously said he created all these things, but really he hasn't. It's a terrible place to live in, I'm telling you. And you have to be a very strong person to be able to listen to that, you know, to these conspiracies, and to still stay sane. Because I remember, like I said, when I first listened to it, and I was without hope at that time, it really knocked me. And it was only because I went back to God that I was able to be built up again, you know. But so it's very dangerous to believe these things. Schizophrenics, they live like that, you know, when nothing is really what it seems. You can't trust anyone, and to the point sometimes where they think people are so bad, they want to do you harm, and you actually have to kill them first. Yeah, this is the extreme end of it. But this is what we're listening to here. And now we're going to hear Esther talking about this reality that is actually that she is living in.
Where Truman was being watched by millions of people in a life that he thought was real, and his life was not real. Every single person in Truman's life was an actor. Those of you who have seen The Truman Show, and even those of you who haven't, make sure that you watch that movie. It will open your eyes and it will make you understand a lot of things about U.S. society.
So here's a woman who just talked about Hollywood being bad. And I don't know if The Truman Show is from Hollywood, but it's American, right? Make sure you watch it. Make sure you watch that movie. And that's, by the way, not the only time she said that. Many other movies, she told people, go and watch that movie. It's really good. It will give you an insight of how things really are. I mean, no, don't. Don't watch that movie, and don't believe that this is how reality is. Go to God and ask him. Yeah? Don't go and watch a movie if you want to know, if you want to know what reality is like. I mean, are you insane? You just told us how bad America is in Hollywood, and now you're telling people to go and watch The Truman Show because it's so based in the truth. What are you talking about? This woman is driving me. No, she's not driving me insane. But, you know, it's getting close. It's getting close.
Society that you may not understand. How do you think Truman felt when Truman came to the understanding that not one single person, not even his own mother, his mother gave birth to him on live TV. She signed a contract that said that from birth, her baby boy could be a social experiment. How do you think Truman felt? Decades of friendships, decades of play dates,
Darling, it was fiction. It was a fictional story. Truman didn't really live. His baby, or whosoever's baby she's talking about, wasn't really signed up for testing. It was his story. But you see, that's the problem with Esther. She has been reading fables since she was little, by her own admission. And then a spirit came to her, and she said it was God. A spirit came to her and told her that all these fables that you read, dear Esther, are all true. They are all true. So now, honestly, I feel that Esther is not doing really well. It's not doing well psychologically, because everything that is telling people is really a projection of her internal world. That's what we are witnessing here.
Decades of real dates, falling in love with girls who said, I love you, Truman, on cue because they were being paid to do so. Falling in love with girls who broke up with him on cue because they were being told, we need a bit of a drama arc, and we also need to see how Truman reacts to disappointment and loss. Have you thought deeply about how odd it would be if the Truman Show audience was watching Truman, and then there was a third layer of people watching them? Wouldn't that be hideous?
Wouldn't that be hideous? Wouldn't that be terrible? I mean, how evil are you? Imagine that. Imagine. I mean, seriously, it's like someone trying to put a spell on you. Imagine if that's really the case. Wouldn't that be hideous? Wow. I mean, you're a piece of work. I'll tell you that. It's just like that time when she said to people, you need to meditate on the fact that people are eating babies. I want you to meditate on that. No, don't meditate on that. Okay? What's wrong with you?
Wouldn't that be hideous if Truman wasn't the only one being watched? If the audience were watching Truman and the audience was being watched by someone else, and that someone else simply wanted the enjoyment of seeing how the audience would react to Truman. That is you out there who keep defending this hidden transmogrification in society. That is.
And of course, we've got that dubious smile again.
It's how it feels, hidden transmogrification in society.
No, that's not us, Esther. That's you. I know you don't want to own anything that you say. It's always us out there, isn't it? Us, the imaginary audience, whatever. It's never Esther. So she's projecting out these things, and this is really dangerous for psychologically weak people, for example, children. I'll give you an example of myself. A child always thinks that it's our fault, when something happens, or when we lack something, it's our fault, or when something is done to us, it's our fault. So we are taking in those, say, my mom, or not my mom, but say, fictionally speaking, my mom, for example, lashes out. And whenever I ask her something, okay, this is fiction, it didn't happen. And I internalize this thing, what she does to me, as hatred, and it's my fault. But really, it's coming from. I'm not even sure I'm explaining myself well. It's coming from the other person, and it's got nothing to do with the child, but the child is internalizing it. And this is what's happening here when people are weak and they are internalizing something that is that Esther is talking about. And I think the Bible talks about this, it calls it the errors, of the enemy, or something like that, because or seeds, sowing seeds, and they grow, they take hold and they grow. She's putting something in people, and I think many people are not even aware of that, but I can see it in the comment section when people are talking about how frightened they are. The woman wanting to divorce her husband. Fear is in the comment section, and a lot of hatred. And there was actually a woman who got in contact with me some time ago, a little while ago, and she said that she realized that she was having, and I'm paraphrasing now, okay? So she said basically she realized that she was wrong in judging people in that way. There was a lot of hatred in her doing that, you know, there was no love in her basically. And like I said, I'm paraphrasing, and that's exactly it. Esther doesn't understand about the love of God. Yeah, the love of God is holiness, but with that also comes compassion, and for those who are struggling, you know. And she doesn't have that, and it's basically the people that are taking in her projections and internalizing it, and she's making little intercessors for herself. She's making little followers, cult members who believe the same thing, who are spouting out the same thing that Esther says. They will come onto my channel and they're literally using the same words that Esther says. And you don't realize, guys, that you are actually speaking these projections that Esther has put into you. They're coming from her.
That is how it feels for them who really know reality to watch you. So they've been watching you watch Truman, and then God sends Celestial to now expose Truman, and now they're watching you fight for Truman. Truman is real. Truman's life is real. Truman's life is not a lie, even though you've been watching Truman's entire life be a lie. And that's,
you see, that's what I'm talking about. She's very confusing. She's all over the place. She's jumping all over the place. She tells us to watch the movie, and now she's making Truman out to be a person who is in our life that we've been watching. You've been watching Truman. Yeah, she's literally all over the place.
that's why you don't understand how angry God is.
No, you're angry.
That we've been made guinea pig experiments. That's why you can't connect with God, because you have less in common with God and everything in common with Truman. You want Truman to win. You want Truman to keep their little big glass plates that they won by powering testosterone against women who tried to play against them. You want Truman to take all the medals at Paris, all the medals coming up in 2028, all the medals forever.
Okay, we're back to the transgenders, obviously, in the Olympics, I guess. And I doubt that there's a lot of people who actually think that's fair. You know, the problem is, and I know that from my husband because he watches that, these sort of videos, and I remind him that the only reason that you are aware of these things is because you're watching it on TV and you're seeing a condensed version of it, basically. But when you go out, even to the big cities here, you know, you don't see that. So there's a minority of people who believe in certain things, and they've been given a loud voice on YouTube. And if you watch a lot of their videos, you think the whole world is like that. But actually, the whole world is not like that. But there's always going to be people out there who will have those ideas, you know, and who will do things differently to us. And we don't agree with that. And God doesn't agree with that. But there will always be people like that. It's nothing new, Esther. But it's new to Esther because Esther grew up very sheltered.
You want Truman to be a real girl, even though God's trying his hardest to tell you that Truman is not. To those who are coming out of the lies of Mystery Babylon, come out. To those who are staying in, let me know your address so I can send you a pillow. You might as well be comfortable if you're going to stay asleep.
Oh, I mean, wow, what a one-liner. Well, send me your address. You might as well have a pillow. I mean, you're not even funny. You know, you're not even funny. Oh, I mean, what is it? I just feel extremely ill listening to this for some reason.
We're going to look at 3 scriptures here. One of them is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 23. The other one is Daniel chapter 9 and verse 27. And the third one is Jeremiah chapter 9, verses 5 to 6. And so let's start in the book of Jeremiah since it comes before Daniel. Jeremiah chapter 9. I'm going to read you just verse 1 and 2 for context, okay? So, excuse me, lamenting states. He's saying that if his tears could be numbered, his whole head would have to be called a fountain because of how much water is pouring out of his eyes. And he's saying that he's crying for the dead. But the problem here is that nobody is dead yet. Nobody's dead yet. It is only towards the end where you see that God will let the Babylonians breach the wall, kill many of them. They manage to seal the wall up, and then a second breach will occur. And at that second breach, they will slaughter even more of them in the city, and then they will march them naked in their skin as captives to Babylon and basically rout the whole place. But then this man is saying here that he's crying for the dead. So obviously, it's the dead that he can see are coming. Jeremiah had the same problem that I have, which is that I speak to people about how many will be slaughtered here.
Okay, listen to this. Jeremiah had the same problem that I have. Because don't you know, I'm also a prophet and I have my own little book online, the book of Esther. Okay, let's listen to this again. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure, Claudia, if I've said that depression comes from weakness. If I have, I didn't mean it like that, because I know about depression as well. It doesn't come from weakness. What I mean by weak is weak in the sense that we can't protect ourselves. That's how it was for me. I was in therapy, and I always used to say to my therapist, I need to grow skin because I feel like I can't protect myself against the world, what the things that are happening in the world, just what other people would call normal things of the world. I was unable to protect myself against that. And so that's what I mean by weak. Maybe I should say weakened. I didn't have that protection. And that's what I was trying to say, basically. But yeah, let's rewind this again.
Obviously, it's the dead that he can see are coming. Jeremiah had the same problem that I have, which is that I speak to people about how many will be slaughtered here in the United States for their hard-heartedness, for how they disbelieve the prophecies of God, for how they mock the prophecies of God, and they try to trample them under their feet. And this man is crying because he's already seen the devastation. He's already seen the death.
So Esther's very upset because Esther is sitting here and she's telling us how bad we are, especially people in America. And we are just like, Esther, shut up. And for a narcissist, that's really bad. Okay, really, really bad. If you would say that to a narcissist that you're working with, you would make sure you would be on the receiving end of their wrath. They would do something to sort of annihilate you or do something to really make you understand that you should not come up against them like that and humiliate them like that. But of course, Esther's being humiliated when people are making videos about her, exposing her lies. We don't have to say anything about Esther and mocking her. Just telling the truth about Esther is a mocking for Esther. Telling the truth about Esther's lies, exposing Esther's lies is a mocking in Esther's eyes. No one came to Jeremiah that I know of and said, we're going to expose your lies now, Jeremiah. And then Jeremiah went, oh, you're mocking me. No, Esther, that's you. Okay. It never happened in the Bible.
He basically knows where the hard-heartedness is leading. He knows where the rejection and the mockery is leading. And it's making him despair because there's nothing quite as painful as telling people that they're going to kill your children. They're going to capture you and take you to Russia. And then the people said, have you seen the Marines? And have you seen the Coast Guard? And have you seen the Navy? And have you seen me? So he's crying because he says he can see the slain of the daughter of his people. And then he says, I wish I had a place in the wilderness. So I wish there was a way for me to separate from these people and go out from among them, so at least I don't have to watch them be destroyed, because they're all adulterers, meaning that they're not faithful to God. He's not calling everybody a sexual adulterer. He's saying that the mass of them have departed from what is true and godly worship, and they are nothing but an assembly of treacherous men. Treacherous men are men who will change on you at the last minute and stab
Now we need more waffle from Esther to explain to us what treacherous means.
you in the back and watch you bleed out and tell you, well, it's your fault. That's what treachery is. Treachery is being stabbed in the back. Treachery is gross disappointment. Treachery is exactly what you thought you could depend on, snapping at the last moment and proving that the last thing that you ever should have done was depend on what you thought you could depend on. And now he comes down. I'll come down to read you the part here. He says, everyone will deceive his neighbor and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongues to speak lies. They weary themselves to commit iniquity. Your dwelling place is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit, they refuse to know me, says the Lord. So then look at the shift in the narrative. Verses 1 and 2, the prophet is speaking about himself. He's speaking on his own behalf. He's speaking out of his human spirit to those who think that a person is supposed to develop, to deliver God's prophetic words like some kind of AI robot and say nothing else besides exactly those words. How odd. So Jeremiah is talking about how painful the work is for him, how difficult it is to prophesy to a people who God is always showing him as dead anyway, and not just emotionally dead, spiritually dead. No, this is physical death. And then all of a sudden he's speaking and he says that everyone will practice deception with the neighbor. Where? In this society of people. So everyone will be lying to everyone. Everyone will be deceiving everyone. He says that they're
Hold on a minute. He didn't say that to you. He didn't say that about today. Of course, people are lying, but let's just get it. Let's stick to the truth. Yeah. Because what was said to Jeremiah was actually concerning the 12 tribes, you know. So why are you making this about America? I mean, she's so desperate to be one of the prophets, you know. She's a prophet, right? She makes the prophet. But yeah, she's so desperate to be wants to be part of that time. You're not, Esther. Stop lying to people.
tongues have been taught to speak lies. Now, if you're speaking about a whole society, is it only the people who lie who speak lies? Is it only the one who is technically saying, I, a man, am actually a woman? Is he the only liar? No. Everyone who participates in the lie, everyone who helps him with the hormone blockers, every doctor who does the surgery is also speaking lies. They are taking their
I think just want to address that again with the depression and weakness. You know, when Jesus says, when we are weak, he can work in us. I think it's that sort of weakness that I'm talking about. But when I was in this depressed state, I didn't want to allow myself to actually acknowledge that I was weak. So, and then turn to God that he could help. I was trying to fight it, you know, but I had no resources to fight it. I was in the flesh and there was no way that I was able to fight the spiritual things. So I was a weak vessel because I had the power of God wasn't in me, you know, and the power of God came when I admitted that actually I can't do anything without God. So in that sense, I was weak, but I didn't even realize it. You know, I had no strength in me. I had no power in me. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that, okay? Because that's a different subject matter now.
part in the lies, but then even the end user of the lie, the one who is being fooled, is participating in a lie. In the first video, I clearly went through what a lie is like. And I said that you do not need to have the knowledge of a lie to participate in it. And this is why lies are very dangerous.
So you do not need to have the knowledge of a lie for you to participate in it. And that's why they're dangerous. Well, I tell you what, for us to be judged, we need to be aware of our wrongdoings. That's why the Gentiles at that time actually perished without the law. And you can read this in Romans 2, verse 12, where it says that the Gentiles who were not under the law of God, they perished without the law. And it was only the 12 tribes who were judged by the law at that time. So, no, Esther, you can't be deceived by a lie that you didn't even know was a lie, and then you're going to be judged for it. It's never going to happen like that.
A woman who goes outside and cheats on her husband and has an affair and gets pregnant and comes and lays with him right after repeatedly so that she can say, don't you remember that time? It was like our honeymoon. We were so warm and hot and heavy with one another.
What is she talking about? We were so, I mean, what? This is just so gross. And listen to what she's saying next now. I mean, it gets worse.
That's what she's going to tell him when this baby comes into the house. And she's also going to be praying that the baby at least looks like her so she can pass it off and say, my twin, my twin. And if the baby does come looking like her, that man is in for 18 years of raising a baby that's not his. There are men who have raised other people's children without knowing.
So that's out for you now, guys out there. First, it was us women. We were supposed to be paranoid about our husbands going off with a, how did you call it, pretty young thing, something like that. And now it's the husband's turn to become paranoid and fearful and mistrustful, mistrusting towards his wife, because who's to say that you're really the husband, the father of these children? Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so sorry, I'm back. Yeah, who's to say that they're really your children? They don't even look like you, So more paranoia, more fear, more division, more destruction of relationships that used to be loving, but there used to be faith. A good relationship works on faith. Yeah, we can't be all paranoid and checking each other's phones and what my partner does in his free time, what I do in my free time. I mean, this is a madness. But that's what's going on in Esther's mind. Who's to say that you're really the daddy? I mean, you're going to be paying for that child now. Might not even be yours. It's disgusting.
There are men who have raised other people's children and they knew, and God bless those men because children need dads. But there are many men in so-called relationships of fidelity who have raised outside babies. That baby right now is playing college football somewhere. That baby right now is running a hedge fund, and that's not your child, sir. You were a participant to a lie without knowing. And I'm sure there are many men who are hearing this right now, knowing it is true and feeling a particular type of pain that I hope that God will heal for you. You can easily be made to participate in a lie completely without your knowledge, completely without knowing what is going on.
See, this is what I mean. Yeah. You don't know what's going on, but you've been lied to. But you don't know it. But believe me, you're being lied to. And on top of that, you're going to be judged for it as well. It's just crazy.
The only way that you will be set free from the tyranny of that lie is, I guess, in the case of the child, when you go and do a DNA test and you find out that was never your baby. I saw a TikTok of a man who was in his 70s.
Oh, there's Esther. She saw another TikTok yet again. Let's test. I mean, exactly. How does Esther even have time for being a lawyer? That's what I want to know.
that was never your baby. I saw a TikTok of a man who was in his 70s who became so frustrated with his wife that he demanded paternity tests. And all his children, who were grown and gone out of their house in their 40s, none of them turned out to be his children. And this man was so upset that all he could say was, I knew those kids were too ugly to be mine. Anyway, that's all he could say. He couldn't get anything back. He had worked his body to the bone. He had been a good husband, a faithful husband. He had done the time, gone to work, paid for the college, paid for everything. And that woman brought not one, but 4 children to that man. And
Do you know what we're listening to here, guys? It's gossip. This is what it is. This is what we're listening to, gossip. Yeah, because I don't know how this is in any way edifying, encouraging, building someone up. Yeah, this is just pure evil gossip. Wow. I mean, that's exactly why I'm feeling so aggravated right now, apart from the fact that my hormones are all over the place. But yeah, this is the vilest form of gossip.
And then when the children left, I guess she started acting up, and he got so sick of it. I don't know what possessed that man, but he had all his kids tested and none of them were his. Old man, 70s, 80s. Lies can be very bitter. And the one
So now it's more than one man. It's 70s and 80s, and the 70s and 80s now. You know, it's not just one man that you watched on TikTok now. Now it's more than one.
person who will never cover a lie is God. God will never cover a lie. God will never allow a lie to prosper. The Bible said, I've read it for you in Proverbs, is that what? True words will stand the test of time, but a lie must be. This is a command. A lie must be exposed. That means every lie has an expiry date. And it's very easy to see when the expiry date of a nation's lies come. All of a sudden, life outside, social life outside becomes very weird. All kinds of things start bubbling out of the inside of people. You can tell when the heat underneath a nation has been turned up spiritually, because people will begin to give voice to everything which is true. It's almost like they're on a timer. It's almost like they're being compelled. People will just start making confessions and saying things and saying things and saying things. And God also, as the leader of this nation, whether anyone actually thinks he deserves it or not, he is the leader and owner of this whole thing. God is going to lead the way in tearing down and exposing lies. So it's not just the speaker of the lies that Jeremiah is speaking about here. It's also the one who hears and participates in the lie. Answer your phone calls by tapping the side of your head, and we're going to implant.
So I'm moving on to the last point that I made. Let's see what that's about. I can't remember now.
But know ye not that this is the temple of God? So he has staked his claim. He has said, this is my home. And then Satan will say, but don't you want a little robot in there so you can be able to answer your phone calls by tapping the side of your head? And we're going to implant the phone mic in your ear. So you can basically be driving and just go. Right now, you can answer a phone call by tapping the AirPods, right? You can tap the AirPod or tap the earbud, and then it picks up the call. Well, you'll be tapping your head because the earbud will be inside your eardrums. Next level tech.
Okay. I mean, what do I say to that? The thing is, if that should ever happen, it's going to be people's choices whether they want that to be happening to them or not. No one's going to force you to put an ear pod into your brains. You know, it's never going to happen. I'm telling you that now. I know there's a lot of fear mongering out there, but I know one thing for sure, and that is that these things that she's talking about, you know, that all the people in America the women will be raped by Russians, and then they were forced to speak Russian, and you know, you're basically, sexuality is going to be destroyed, and we're all going to become transhumans. And no, it's never going to happen, Esther. That's your fear speaking out of you. I'm telling you guys, it's never going to happen.
Ye are gods. That's what Satan's been selling all along. That's always been the end goal. So every time people ask, why would God? Never ask, why would God? You should ask yourself, Lord, help me to understand. Help me to understand you. Never question God's motives because they are impeccable. And like he said, my ways are high above your ways, as high as the sky is above the earth. Never say, but why would God? God has a billion reasons. You just need to ask him if he would grant you the grace to understand 10. Because we're flesh and we don't understand him. And he's also working against an enemy who has got us fooled. And the enemy himself is not flesh, he's spirit. So two spirits working at a level above our heads. And then the flesh at the bottom constantly saying, I don't think this is God.
Yeah, the enemy certainly has you fooled, Esther. And really what she's saying is, don't question me because I'm the mouthpiece of God. You can't
He says,
understand it.
because they are living in the midst of lies, they refuse to know me. Do you hear that word refuse? What does refusing something mean? Celestial, can I get you anything? Oh, no, thank you. I'm fine, thank you. Yes, but everyone is having a meal now. I just want to make sure that you have something. No, I had something earlier. Thank you. I'm fine. Conscious decision, turning away.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier about food again. She has that thing about food, where she's fasting, and she says, of course, fasting for God, and then someone comes and says, you sure you don't want something to eat? Oh, no. I mean, I can literally imagine it, people ask you because they just want to be kind, and everyone's eating is usually a thing done together with other people. It's a social thing, and then there you are on your own not eating. That's okay, but don't think people are evil because they're asking you if you want to have something to eat. Okay, not everyone is evil, Esther, but according to Esther, of course, no one can be trusted. Everyone's evil, everyone's against her.
What is offered. So he says that the reason his people are not getting to know him is because they live in the midst of deceit, and the deceit has entered them first. When deceit enters you first, what room do you think the Spirit of God will have? When the deceit gets into you and puffs up like yeast.
Do you know the sad thing about this is that Esther hasn't moved on. She's stuck in the Old Testament. And she doesn't understand that, the evil age, there's a scripture that talks about the evil age, and the Lord came to rescue us from that evil age. I actually just talked about that the other day in my live stream. And of course, also in Matthew 24, they talk about when will this age come, this new age that they were talking about, because they were on this evil age. And Esther keeps reading about that evil age. She keeps reading about it. And she is linking it to today. But today's people, even though there's lots of evil still going on, are very different to back then. Because, people don't want to be lied to in general. I'm talking general. There's always evil out there, and they rejoice in the wickedness, of course. But in general, people don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be cheated on. Yeah. They don't want to be, they don't want to be lied to. So Esther is always looking to this book that was written for specific people, by specific people for that time. But now, of course, this is about the end times again, and I'm not going to start talking about that now, but she's still caught up in that. And that's why she sees herself as one of the prophets, who's warning America, judgment is coming, Babylon, you're in Babylon, doesn't say that about America in the Bible. It doesn't say that. But Esther has to make it like that.
I saw her children. Did you? Did you raise them? You took them to the park? You're the au pair that none of us knew you were? He says, deceit is the reason that they're refusing me. That means that what I've been saying here all along is actually factual, that people do love lies above truth. Jesus Christ is true.
So guys, as you could hear, and I have to finish now, but she says people love lies. That's not true. That's not true. Because no one wants to be lied to. Yeah. Even people who do wicked things, they don't want someone coming to them lying to them. Like I said, there's always an odd one out, but in general, that's how it is. But Esther, you are stuck in the past. You're stuck in the past. You need to move on. And Esther herself has been deceived by lies. She's been listening to pastors who've told her about the end time is still to come. You have to live in fear. You're gonna get your head's gonna be hacked off, whatever. And yeah, she's stuck in it. What can I say? But anyway, guys, I'm gonna have to stop. There's so much more to do. I'm definitely gonna do another live stream about the failed prophecies of Esther, and I hope you guys will be there and even maybe add to it, because I may not catch all the prophecies that she's actually failed, and you guys may know of some that I don't. So yeah, it would be a great support if you